Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing, please. We want Mr. Reverend Jack Taylor to come up and give an invocation.
Would you bow your heads with me, please? Father in heaven, we thank you for this day, Lord God, and we thank you for your creation. I also thank you for the institution of government, and I thank you for these men and women that have a heart to serve this government. Lord God, I would ask that you would give them wisdom, give them discernment in all that they do, and I ask you, Lord, that you would give all of us a spirit of cooperation, that extra measure of grace for one another, and at the end of the evening, Lord, may we leave here knowing that you have your hand on everything. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Under announcements, this week we had a meeting at the clubhouse, and this was a meeting of put on by the League of Municipalities, of which we are a member, and this covered cities in about 8 or 9 counties, I guess, somewhere around us, and everyone came to the clubhouse. And it was quite good. All the board members were there, and city staff. The League provides a tremendous opportunity for small municipalities to have a representation in Raleigh. The biggest thing everyone needs to keep in mind is that the legislature is the 9,000-pound gorilla. They hold all the power. You've heard all this about the water issues in the city of Asheville and how they came in and tried to take the city of Asheville's water away from them. They have the power to do that. They have the power to come in and take our water system. They have the power to come in and revoke our charter and anyone else's charter in the state. So it's good that you have an organization called the League of Municipalities so that we can get together, pool our talents, our ideas, our thoughts, and especially our energies and our feet to mobilize to go down to fight for things that are good for you, the citizens. And this is definitely one of the best things that we can belong to and that we can participate in. There's different things that affect all the different departments, especially police department. They provide a lot of training, body armor. So there's lots of programs all across the board. We take advantage of some of them, and some we don't. But I thought that was pretty good that we were able to have them here in Black Mountain, and I hope that this board and this staff will continue to be a part of that league. We got 2 proclamations here. First proclamation is Strive Not to Drive. Whereas the town of Black Mountain is a participating organization in the Strive Not to Drive Workplace Challenge. Whereas clean air is essential to public health, the environment, and the economy in North Carolina. And whereas using active transportation can be easy, more efficient, less expensive, beneficial to the community, in many ways more fun. Whereas walking, riding a bike, taking the bus, car sharing, carpooling, and telecommunicating are all healthier ways to get to work instead of driving alone in the car. Whereas driving alone in a car uses more gas, creates more air pollution. When all the costs are considered, it's the most expensive transportation option for people of Black Mountain. Whereas the town of Black Mountain, Land of the Sky Regional Council governments, the Blue Ridge Bicycle Club, Dynamite Roasting Company, Velo Girl Rides, Epic Cycles, the Black Mountain Health Initiative, the Black Mountain Greenways Commission, and the Black Mountain Recreational Parks, all working together with organizations to help citizens strive not to drive. Therefore, I see Michael Sobel, Mayor of the town of Black Mountain, do hereby proclaim May 12th through the 19th is Strive Not to Drive Week in our town. I encourage all citizens to promote healthier transportation options. Second proclamation is Older Americans Month. And whereas the U.S. Department of Health and Human Service Administration for Community Living Administration on Aging in the town of Black Mountain recognizes the value and importance of older Americans across the United States and in North Carolina. And whereas the town of Black Mountain includes older Americans who richly contribute to our community. And whereas we acknowledge that what it means to age is change for the better. Whereas the town of Black Mountain is committed to supporting older adults as they take charge of their health, exploring new opportunities, activities, and focus on independence. And whereas the town of Black Mountain can provide opportunities to enrich the lives of all ages by involving older adults in the redefinition of aging in our community, promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, encouraging older adults to speak up for themselves and others, and providing opportunities for older adults to share their experiences. Now, therefore, I see Michael Sobel, the town of Black Mountain, do hereby proclaim the month of May to be Older Americans Month in our town, and encourage all citizens to take time during this month to acknowledge older adults and the people who serve them as influential and vital parts of our community. Signed this 8th day of May. And with that, a nice little segue, because of the fact that, speaking of getting around, striving not to drive, and also the fact of older adults walking more, the greenways. And with that, I will recognize the first speaker, which would be Becky James, for citizen comment.
I'm Becky James. I live at 75 Tucker Road, and I'm here to report on the 10th running of the Greenway Challenge, the 5K, 10K race, which was another fabulous day for the Greenways. We had great weather. We had over 200 participants, and we netted over $4,000. And I always talk about fundraisers often being more like friend raisers, and that's how I see the Greenway Challenge. We see that as an opportunity not only to raise some funds, which we know how expensive greenways are, but also a way to really educate the community about the importance of greenways. We have some really important partners. I want to definitely acknowledge Pisgah Brewing, who's been there from the first year on, who always offers a free use of the venue. There are some costs, but it's a considerable gift that they make to the community by offering a free venue. Of course, we have all of the local sponsors that contribute to the running of the event and contribute directly to the greenways. The commissioners all participate. They work really hard. I took this event on 4 years ago. This is my last year doing it, so next year I'm actually going to run in it instead of running the event. And we also want to acknowledge our appreciation to the Alderman for your support of the greenways. Clearly, you have listened to the town's people and how they value the greenways. Clearly, all you have to do is go out on a day like today and see how busy the traffic is on the greenways. So thank you for getting behind the people and supporting the grants and doing all the hard work to keep the energy going on tremendous projects that are very time consuming, resource consuming, but very important. And so I'd like to just give a little gift to everybody for their work on the greenways. Can someone give one to Carlos? Absolutely. It's back. And this is the net gator that we hand out to the participants, and it lists all of the sponsors. Larry, you also get it.
Oh, thank you.
Because you're one of the sponsors, and you get an extra one.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I set that right there, huh?
It's been an honor to work for the town in this way. Thank you very much.
Thank you for all the hard work you did, Becky. Next up will be Dee Dee Stiles, as she speaks about the bees. Let me just make sure that, so we understand, that we've got 3 minutes.
He thinks I'm a big talker.
Yeah.
She needs to change that to green. Okay, thank you. Yeah, right.
This doesn't cut into your time.
What?
This doesn't cut into your time.
Right, no, she's putting up my pictures. Okay. Yeah. Today, I plan to talk about 3 plants, 1 for people and 2 for bees. The preservation of all these are connected. Mullein, next. White fall asters and goldenrod. As you may know, bees and other pollinating insects are very important to our food supply. And as you may know, there is getting to be a big problem with honeybees being able to survive the winter. In the fall, bees need to be able to store plenty of nectar for the adults to eat during the winter and plenty of pollen to feed the first broods of new young bees in the early spring before the new pollen appears. This is white fall asters, how they look when you see them from a distance. Next. And there they are again, and the gray, those brown stalks, those are how they look right now in the winter, because I want you all to be able to find where they are. These 2 plants are the most important sources of fall stores for the bees. Without them, the colonies of bees are weak and less likely to survive the winter. Next. There's goldenrod in its natural habitat, and as you can see, where the mowing took up, the goldenrod stopped. There on the right is the goldenrod plants like they look now if you see them in the field. The reason I'm telling you this is because what has been happening is that just about the time these plants start to bloom, they are mowed down. To benefit the bees, these plants should be let stand until early November. Please look out for them and try to leave them standing whenever possible. Next. Now, I know that the town does not look kindly on the building in this picture. But what you may not know is that this building is protecting behind it the most diverse colony of plants that support beneficial insects, including honeybees and many native pollinators that I have ever come across. This photograph was taken in the middle of the summer before the goldenrod and asters were in bloom, but they are part of the green exuberance you see here. I especially want to point out the mulleins, those tall, thick-leaved ones that are in the front row, if you can make them out closer to the, not at the track, but right below the most of the green stuff. Mullein is a significant medicinal plant used to make cures for cough, sore throat, and this site has the most outstanding colony of mullein I have ever seen, and I have been around a lot of weed patches for a long time. Next. This is what it looks like after what the railroad did with their herbicide spray. They sprayed all the way back to the building. It went from this, next, to this. Next. There they are all dead. Now all those beneficial plants are gone, and as of today, they show very little sign of ever coming back. Next. That's what it looks like today. I took that picture this morning. I heard once that what?
Speed through.
Okay, I've got one little pair. I heard once that the railroad had an agreement that the town had an agreement with the railroad that kept them from spraying inside the Black Mountain city limits. But maybe that was never the case. Maybe the railroad disregarded any agreement. Whatever the reason, please, please, please try to stop them from doing this again.
Thank you, Dee Dee.
And I brought you this. This is a corpse that was left after the destruction that the railroad did. Thank you.
All right.
Did you give me what you wrote? I'll include that in the minutes.
Okay, and your town clerk has a copy of those slides. If you would like to see them later, I can come back, talk to you, or talk to certain, anybody that wants to know more about it.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Next is Weston Hall.
My name is Weston Hall, 100 Portman Villa. I wanted to talk about dilapidated buildings, not the one that Miss Dee Dee was talking about, but the one when you get off the highway. I think that's exit 64, and it's the old Kentucky Fried Chicken and the old Huddle House. just had a couple citizens come up to me, or actually seemingly a lot of citizens come up to me and say, have I said anything about these dilapidated buildings that have stood empty, I guess, for a year, maybe 2 years, and there have been some letters to the editor about them, but I haven't seen much change. We did call JRN, I think is the holding company, and they said that they are paying somebody to, I guess, keep these properties up, but there's a broken window in the Huddle House, I think, where there was a robbery at one time, maybe a year ago, and it still has not been repaired, and it's the first thing that people see when they come into Black Mountain, and I just was hoping that the town would put some pressure on this company to do something. Also, I was going to talk about the traffic around Port Manvilla and 3rd, 4th Street, and the Black Mountain Police have done an excellent job in cracking down. They were out there for the past couple months. They've been out there strong, but we also need something done like the traffic strips or something like that. I noticed the speed limit had been changed on Charlotte Street and Dougherty Street, which is a great job, and I applaud the town for taking swift action on that. But we still need some work done as far as traffic calming devices, and hopefully we'll look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. And last on the speaker's list is Judy White.
Hi, Julie White, 205 9th Street, and I have a couple of Greenway-related items. First of all, I want to thank the Greenway Commission members and the volunteers from town and the town staff who were there Saturday to help with the Greenway Discovery Tour, and thanks to Larry and his dog who joined us. But we had a good crowd, and it was a good opportunity to show people the connectivity and the future of our greenways. It was very much fun, so thanks to everybody who came. Second of all, I want to follow up on what Mayor Sobel said earlier about the Strive Not to Drive. We have several items this week. We have a walk and bike to school day Wednesday. People can meet at the church, the Baptist church, at 7, or also stop by the Flat Creek Greenway Trailhead. We'll have coffee there from Dynamite Roasting for parents who will walk their kids to school. So come and join us. Weather permitting, Friday we will have a bike rodeo behind Black Mountain Elementary School from 4 to 6. We will have bike helmets to give away. We'll be teaching kids bike skills, and then we'll let them ride around the field. So good luck with the weather. And then Saturday, Jen Billstrom of Velo Girl Rides will be leading a town bike ride from Town Square at 9:30. So I want to encourage people to participate in those events. Now, for just a minute, I'm going to take off my Greenway hat and just speak as a citizen, and this has to do with one of the items on your consent agenda for a public hearing on the land on White Pine Boulevard, and I want to talk about that because I'm going to be out of town next month briefly. So if that land is, you are going to be considering rezoning that land, and what happens with that land may affect our Garden Greenway. So if you ask me if I'm happy about that, I would say no. But if you ask me, do I trust the town to work with us to make sure that that greenway remains intact in some form, and that the connections remain there, and that safe connections are there, so people can continue to use that greenway? Yes, I trust the town to do that. So, and again, I'm speaking only of myself. We haven't discussed this at the Greenway Commission. So while I wouldn't be thrilled with that, I think we can work around that. I do want to say this, though. I want us to be really mindful as we make this decision. I think this town is just really developing explosively. There is a lot of green space that is privately owned that's being developed, and that's going to continue. So I think it's really important that we look carefully at our publicly owned Black Mountain parks and our green spaces as we decide what to do with them. Because once something's built on a piece of green land, that's gone forever. That green space is gone. So I just want, and I know that our town will, I think the people in our town will look carefully at this and think long and hard about the benefits of rezoning that land for the town now, and the benefits for rezoning that land now or further in the future, like 20, 30, 40 years. What will the impact on the town and the citizens and the quality of this community be? So I just want careful consideration, God.
Thank you, Julie. Appreciate it. Communications?
Yes, we'll go to Dean Luby, Assistant Town Manager. He's going to give the quarterly finance report.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. It's an honor to speak to you again tonight. We are going to go over the fiscal year 17 numbers. That's at March 31st. We're 3/4 of the way through the fiscal year. We're going to be going over some budget numbers, actual numbers, and some percentages for both this year and the prior fiscal year. I'm not really going to go over every number on these pages. I'm going to go over some that I feel that are important that you should know about. But if you have any questions about any of them, I'll do my best to answer them. So on this first page, we talk about the general fund. The top section, I wish I had under sales tax and franchise tax, you'll see we're exactly at 50%. Both of those taxes are on a 3-month lag time. So we've really only received a half year's payment, and 50% sounds good. You'll see that in the prior year we were at about 54%. And what that's sort of telling us is that in a lot of past years, our actual sales and franchise taxes have exceeded budget, and they're probably not looking like they're going to do that this year. Sales tax, again, we get about 1.5% of all the sales tax that's distributed within Buncombe County. Asheville and Buncombe County probably get 95% of it. Sales tax is distributed in Buncombe County by what's called the ad valorem method, which is property values times tax rate, which gives you the tax levy, and then they look at the tax levies of Black Mountain, Asheville, Weaverville, Buncombe County, and then they figure out the percentages. Values rose by 28% in Buncombe County on this last revaluation. Black Mountain values only went up 14%. So, which is still a big increase for Black Mountain, but if everybody stayed revenue neutral, our percentage of that sales tax would still go down a little bit, because other parts of the county, the big parts of the county, Asheville and Buncombe County, they grew by closer to 28%. And it really looks like both of those, Buncombe County and Asheville, are thinking about going above revenue neutral, which really means that our sales tax percentage will even go down a little bit more than it would have. So I just want to point that out. On the next section, we talk about expenditures from the general fund. You know, you can see in both years we were right at 75% on both of those. The fire department and planning, they both look a little bit high, and that's really because of some capital purchases for fire and planning. A lot of our capital projects funds, the transfers that the general fund give to these capital projects fund, they come up, for some reason, they come out of the planning department, mostly because Josh is a key player in these things. So we've made a lot of those transfers, but in effect, none of those numbers are all that significant. On this next page, we again break down general fund expenses. This time we sort of do it by category. And the insurance expense, we're over budget again. That really has to do with our workman's comp. They look back in the past 3 years to figure out what our rate is. Our rate had gone way up. It's on the way down right now, but we've gone, I think, over 2 years without any kind of serious accident, so that's helped us a lot. Our capital spending is also very high this year. That has to do with the down payment on the fire truck and a lot of Powell bill items that Jamie has got done. Let's see. Down below, the bottom section here is the water fund. I'll point out the other water revenues are just doing great, and this is really impact fees and water taps. This is sort of tied in with building permits, and you know we're at 290,000 this year. We were at 227 last year at this point. So you know, both of those numbers sort of bode well for all the building that we all see going on. On the expense side of things, the purchase of Asheville water has really increased this year, and I know Jamie's guys are working all the time to have our water system become more efficient. We really think we're going in the right direction with the SCADA system, but that number's a little bit higher. And then that would be about it in water, I guess. Next slide here, we talk about the golf fund. I'll just look at the total golf revenues. We're up about $45,000 from last fiscal year at this point. If you remember, the busy months at the golf are really April through September. So we're hoping these last 3 months will get us pretty close to budget by the time the year ends. Also, that's when a lot of memberships come due. So we're happy with the progress being made there as well. This next slide shows our cash holdings. Last year at this point we had about $1.8 million more than we do right now. About 1.3 of that was in the settings trust fund, which in some ways really wasn't entirely the town's money. We were sort of holding it for all the work being done up there. The remaining difference represents the down payment that we made on the fire truck. It was about $400,000. So there's nothing really too crazy with that. This slide didn't get done quite perfect, but the bottom, we're going to go on to the debt schedule, and let's see if this works. Yeah, the headings didn't quite work out well here, but we've made a lot of progress on debt, and basically this slide does not represent the payoff on the pool debt that it looks like the board is going to we're going to go ahead with. Once that pool debt gets paid off, we'll be paying about $320,000 a year on debt. It'll go down maybe $5,000 a year going forward, unless we pay off something else, which a lot of the interest rates are pretty low. So, but we might look into those ideas. So that 320 and 315 and 310 is what it will be the next couple fiscal years. Not too long ago, our debt payments were over $800,000. So we made a lot of progress there. And this last page shows our current capital projects. We received a last payment on this comprehensive bike plan a couple months ago, so that is in effect a closed capital project, as is the settings infrastructure. The watershed restoration, we'll probably be doing a budget amendment next month on that, because Josh has, we received word on a $60,000 grant on that. I think there's three different projects in town, one at the library, one at the golf course, and one on Cherry Street. Church Street, sorry, Church Street. That we'll probably be getting to in the next 6 months or so. The Riverwalk Greenway, we all know about that. And the Tomahawk Stream stabilization, this is work down at the golf course. I just sort of show you expenditures today. We actually just wrote a large check on that a week or two ago. So we're getting close to spending most of that grant too. We've also just recently set up the Veterans Park Capital Projects Fund, we're going to set that up later in the meeting. But so that'll be another capital project that we have. But that is about all that I have. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to try to answer them.
So the debt that we would have then on, just in general funds you have here, our total debt, general fund and water fund, is a little over $3 million.
As of today, at the end of this fiscal year, barely over $3 million, right? $3 million, here, I'll go back to that. $3,034,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but outside the water fund, the only thing that we'll have then would just be town square?
Yep, yeah, and that, we pay $126,000 on principal, and I think the interest is somewhere around 40 right now, and that's a declining, it goes down a couple thousand every year.
The 330 you spoke of includes that plus the water fund payments?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Also, I noticed over here on the building permits, you know, we're already 109% after 9 months. If you extrapolated that out, that's roughly $30,000 a month that we've received in. Could we think that we'll get that per month the next 3 months? Per month?
Somewhat, something close to that. I'd be, you know,
I mean, because if we did, that means
Yeah.
we get 350, which means we'd be $110,000 over budget.
yeah, I should have really talked about building permits. I mean, in both years, we're at 109% of budget, but my budget has increased quite a bit from year to year, so we're actually $50,000 or almost over $50,000 better.
Yeah.
Right
Basically,
now.
if we compare back to last year, then we're gonna be almost $150,000 over just on building permits.
But that's the total through March 31st for both years. I think last year we might have ended up at 250, 260 or so. I don't have that readily accessible, but.
Anyway, it's quite,
But the
it's
point
quite.
is, building permits is doing great, right.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, the only thing I just want to make a statement is the town needs to be reminded, I think, again, we've gone from 14 total debts that we had 5.5 years ago. And with this last one, the pool that we're paying off, we're going to be down to 4. That's 10 debts that we paid off early or on time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dean.
Just leave it right there. So next, Mr. Mayor, you got the Beautification Commission report. I think Libba's gonna do it, or maybe she's got Lyndall too. They're gonna tag team this.
So we just push and go forward to the one, the right button to go forward.
Okay. Background, thank you. Hi, I'm Lyndall Noyes Brownell, and this is Libba Farrelly, and we would like to thank you for inviting us tonight to give our annual report. We realize that you're well aware of what we do and what we have done, so we thought we'd give you a glimpse of what goes on behind the scenes at our monthly meeting. In order to follow along, you all should have our agenda in your packet, so if you could take those out. Our meetings typically run an hour long, but don't worry, this presentation will be under 10 minutes. Our mission, excuse me.
It's all right, just keep going, keep talking.
Our mission and vision statement guides us and inspires us through all our activities. Our mission statement is, the people of Black Mountain possesses a cherished tradition of honoring the natural beauty of the surrounding mountains, all the while seeking to reflect the beauty on the streets and in the lives of its citizens. Members sign in. Currently, we have 49 Black Mountain residents who are members of our committee. Our members show their appreciation in many ways, whether it's attending a monthly meeting, monthly meetings, work days, caretakers of garden sites, working on our subcommittees, or other activities. Our members are the backbone of the Beautification Committee, and without them, our ideas would not take root. The photos you see in this picture is from our April meeting, and we have 25 members and 1 guest. Speaking of guests, at our meeting, at each meeting, they attend as they have heard about us through various ways, either through notices in Black Mountain News, our website, Facebook page, or word of mouth. Naturally, not every guest joins our committee. One guest thanked us for our work, but she could not join as she told us it was too much hard work. After hearing this, I was confused. I thought it was just having fun. Our secretary takes excellent minutes and sends them to the town clerk, and she also keeps us on agenda. For the treasurer's report, we receive money from you, the town of Black Mountain, and the town square committee. Other sources of income are the garden show and the clothesline sale, which is set for May 20th. The clothesline sale is unique as the members offer garden-related services at a set price. This is your opportunity to purchase items offered by the beautification members. Need your garden weeded? Want custom sewed patio furniture pillows? Walk away with an herb garden? Purchase a gourmet dinner for 4? Come early as these items go quickly. During the past 3 years, we hold a Christmas greenery sale where we sell wreaths and garlands. Proceeds from this fundraiser pay for all the wreaths and garland that decorate our welcome signs, that decorate town square, and that wreaths that hang around the doors at Town Hall. Announcements. We open the floor to our members to announce community activities, local garden events, and other happenings. My current announcement is that Libba is going to be guiding us through the rest of this presentation. Okay. You're all set up.
Okay. So we have 5 consistent committees with the Beautification Committee, and they are Consistent Look, Garden Sites, Publicity, Swannanoa Correctional Center for Women, and Town Square Maintenance, or Town Square. So I'm going to tell you briefly about each of those. In 2015, we set as one of our goals making a consistent look in town, which means that we decided to no longer have all the hay racks around town, but that we would build planters. The planter you're seeing here is built by a local person, and the artwork on it is done by either Tekla Hawachin, Dan Hawachin, or Julia Burr. So each planter will have art on it. These 32 planters will be in the historic district of town, and we are hoping that they will go in soon, and very soon. 8 members of the committee will be tending these particular planters. Our garden sites. This is one of our garden sites with some of our members working. We have 28 members in town, in the committee, who maintain 20 garden sites in town. Each member who joins the committee is given the opportunity to tend a site. We feel that these garden sites let the people who live in town and the visitors to town know that Black Mountain cares about how it looks. Never was the devotion to a garden site more evident than this past summer, when during the drought you could see members of the committee carrying their water jugs into their different garden sites to water their gardens. Members routinely spend 3 to 4 hours a month tending their garden site, and we also have 2 larger sites where we have work days. On average, we spend 840 hours a year just on our 20 garden sites. Our next committee is publicity, and we use publicity not really to toot our own horn, but to keep the community informed about what we're doing, because we think the community needs to know, because it gives them pride in what we're doing, and it gives them pride in our town. Our members maintain the Facebook site and our web page. I encourage you to go visit both of them. They're not hard, Black Mountain Beautification. The Swannanoa Correctional Center for Women. The Beautification Committee has a 15-year history of working with Swannanoa Correctional Center for Women. Our work has entailed remodeling the greenhouse, teaching the women best gardening practices, and working with committee members on projects in the community. We have this slide because we feel it's symbolic of growing from seed, which the ladies at the prison do. They grow the plants from seed to mature plants. And we feel that this parallels the possibility for personal growth for them. We think it's important not only to teach the women horticultural skills, but also to give them the experience of contributing to the community and also receiving the grateful appreciation of the community. And I can tell you that the women are blown away each workday because everybody stops and thanks them. And they all say they've never had that happen before. Our last ongoing committee is the Town Square Committee. In 2016, the committee was given the opportunity to maintain the gardens at Town Square. And recognizing Town Square as a focal point in town, we are excited about our work there. Members of our committee have donated in the past year over 350 hours of work at Town Square. So I'd like just to break that down financially for you. And this is just the actual digging in the dirt. Members of the Beautification Committee have worked over 1,190 hours digging in the dirt in Black Mountain. And if we were to be paid just minimum wage, we would be saving the town $8,900. And that is not health insurance, not retirement, not sick pay, not vacation day. But what we receive from you in doing this is a lot more than money. It's your gratitude, and we really are grateful for you. During the meeting, it's at this point where we sort of take a break in the meeting, and we recognize a member who has done something outstanding in the community that's not part of their, quote, job description. So we would say, Suzanne, turn off the light. Suzanne, turn off the light. So the Shining Light Award, oh no, it died. The battery, it worked us out. So the Shining Light Award, it makes this wonderful noise, and we give it to a member who has done outstanding things. And we would like to give the Board of Aldermen, and we voted on this at our April meeting, to give you the Shining Light Award for your appreciation of us. Really, each time that we're working, all of you come by and say thank you. And, you know, payment is one thing, but gratitude counts a whole lot more. And we appreciate your gratitude of us. So, in old business, we're just going to give you an idea of some of the things that we do. Just recently, we had the litter sweep. And working with other community members, we collected over 50 bags of trash throughout the town. We also recently did the Seed Money Award. We have been giving for 4 years grants to local organizations when they have an idea for creating something that makes Black Mountain even more attractive. This is the Black Mountain Elementary School. Also, Swannanoa Valley Museum received a grant this year. And Invisible Hands at Christ Community Church received a grant to build a garden at Nana's place. So that will be in their backyard, and we think that's an excellent thing for them to be doing. Then, last year, as one of our goals, we felt like that alleyway that was at the bottom of, that led up to Cherry Street between Europa and Veranda was in dire need of work. And so the committee set as one of its goals to repair that alley. Well, we got it so beautifully done that Mary Leonard White said, let's rename it Hawatchin Walk. And then with y'all's approval, we renamed it Hawatchin Walk in honor of Dan and Tekla Hawatchin for all that they have given to this town. Halloween decoration had a new twist this year. We worked with the Black Mountain Primary School, and we created 5 scarecrows. But the scarecrows had problems, and we had to tend to them every day, so we renamed them the Scare Children. Some of their clothes started falling off, and we had to take care of them every day so they wouldn't be X-rated. But they will be back again this year with us. New business. Have we mentioned enough that the Black Mountain Garden Show and Sale is coming up on May 20th? put it on your calendars. This brings in vendors and visitors from all over the Southeast. We have 4 free workshops. We have an opportunity to recycle your plastic containers, which you'll hear about in a few minutes. It is an excellent representation of the excitement that goes on in Black Mountain, and it's located at the Monte Vista Hotel. Additional new business, again, is that we hope that the planters will be up by the end of June, and our goal is to have them up by the end of May. So we ask you just to stay tuned for other work that we do in Black Mountain and other ideas that come forth from us. It seems like one idea springs forth another idea. So at the end of all of our meetings, to make sure that people want to come back, we have a drawing for a door prize. And we're going to ask our town manager to make the drawing.
Says the town manager wins. Number 2.
Who is number 2? Look at your.
That's you.
Oh.
You didn't have yours out.
I don't know.
This is the winner.
Look at this.
Okay, now, but we couldn't leave all of you out.
Thank you.
So
Thank you so much.
these are gluten free. Just so you know. Thank you. Okay, but we didn't want to leave y'all out either. That way you won't have to share. That's the whole idea. We really appreciate that you let us play in the rich soil of Black Mountain. It gives us all great pleasure. Do you have any questions for us?
We just have thanks.
I would make one comment before Libba and Lyndall sit down, is that we did, Angela's applied for a Appalachian Regional Commission grant for the planters and benches downtown. We don't, I know you thought I was going to say we got it. I know. We've not heard word yet on whether we've received that. Really what that does is it compresses the timeline for and this happens to most things that we do. If we don't get the grant, it would take a little longer to make some of these improvements. If we do get the grant, though, then we will speed the process up, and we're hoping that we'll get good news on that grant, and we'll be able to move forward quickly. But regardless, our intention and working hand in hand with the Beautification Commission, who has done all the heavy lifting really for this, we'll move forward with that. But we also have a grant out there for those improvements too, or to speed up those improvements.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will say that in the last week's paper, week before last, though, they had pictures that they were showing there of that seed money, and what a wonderful thing that is to be able to start little projects around that then in turn incubate other little projects, and so it grows and feeds on itself. All right, Matt, now we've got Marilyn.
We do still have the flower pot recycling collection. Marilyn Sabansky.
With Rainbow Recycling. Well, it's garden fever time of year, and that means that stacks of empty flower pots start invading garages, sheds, and sides of houses. But that's where we come to the rescue with our special recycling collection now in its 9th year, held at the Black Mountain Garden Show. Our 2-minute promo video showing our event last year will help you see how our drive-through at the back of the library parking lot works, and give you a sense of just the volume that comes in. It's incredible. Please note that when this rolls that there are captions in a few places on there that kind of explain and also add a little flavor. So Angela, let it roll. So it's during the entire time of the garden show only. There are a few points to remember. It's at the back of the library parking lot, drive-through only, no parking there. That's strictly for the library. And we ask, as usual, if you will, rinse or knock off most of the dirt. This year we're asking you to pre-sort pots, so separate your round ones from your square ones. That will make a considerable difference in helping us to be more efficient because it comes in fast and furious and it's hard to keep up with, and that will help us a lot. And they can be broken or intact, and all are made available for reuse. So we have growers as well as individual residents who would like to make use of them. We're happy to see them go, but whatever does not go for reuse gets recycled. We'd like to thank our new library director, Melissa Presley, for allowing us to use that part of their lot again. It really makes a difference. It's much bigger space and helps a lot. We have these bright green flyers. They're quite evident. They're all over town. They're at the chamber and at the library. Are also available from us at info@rainbowrecycling.org. And just a note, and I forgot this last year, that if for any reason you can't make it to this event or find somebody to take your stuff to the event, you can always take your pots and trays to Lowe's, any of the Lowe's stores. They will responsibly recycle them. So that is an option. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks again for all the hard work, and especially that is a wonderful service there too. And I'm just glad that so many people reuse a lot of those. That's what's nice. Okay, Matt, consent agenda.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've got the adoption of minutes from your April 6th agenda session, your April 10th regular session, a budget workshop on April the 19th. I think that you all had received a copy of your closed session minutes from April 25th. So those are the minutes that you have to approve. We have a call for a public hearing for the budget. That is to be held on Monday, June the 19th at 6:00 p.m. in this room. If you'll recall, the board meeting, the regular board meeting for June is June the 12th. This is a special meeting for the public hearing for the budget on June the 19th. You've got a call for public hearing, and we have a lot of calls for public hearing for June, and I'll just read through them briefly. But you have a call for public hearing for text amendments to add parks and open space and indoor and outdoor recreation areas to the land use code. We don't currently have a we don't list parks and open spaces in our table of uses. And even though obviously we have a lot of parks and open space, and this makes a correction to the land use code to define indoor and outdoor recreation areas and to allow them in districts that they're in and districts that they can be in the future. It's just an update to the land use code periodically. We find those oversights and make those changes as we move forward. You have a call for a public hearing for text amendment appeals and variances. Basically, right now, our land use code requires us to advertise that in the paper in addition to advertising within 200 feet to all the property owners within 200 feet of where an appeal or a variance occurs and posting the property. We're not required by the general statutes to put that in the paper. You are for some other opportunities that we have to make changes to the land use code, or changes that we make like rezonings. But this is not one, and we would add that, or we would ask that you have a public hearing to amend the land use code to take that section out. What ends up happening? There are unnecessary expenses with the newspaper, and it just requires an additional level of advertisement that sometimes doesn't serve the public as well as it should. And like I said, we are still, of course, meeting all the requirements of advertising within, or sending out letters to everybody within 200 feet of the affected property and posting the property. That, of course, will still stay. You have a call for public hearing to rezone 17 White Pine Drive from TR4, which is town residential, to OI6, which is office and institutional. That is the property where the community garden and the half the disc golf and the section is there at the end of White Pine Drive where Gray Eagle and Station 2 and that parcels that are associated with that. The property across the interstate, that's the other part of Veterans Park. If you recall, a few years ago, we named the entire piece to put it under the entire name of Veterans Park. It was Rec Park then. It's all Veterans Park now. The other section on the other side of 40 is currently OI6. There is obviously opportunities for improvements to the community garden, opportunities for expansion at the property that have been mentioned, including the future opportunity for potentially a daycare. Those things would require a different zoning jurisdiction if you're going to make any of those improvements. It's not zoned properly for any improvements that might occur there currently, and so we would request a public hearing to make it at least consistent with the piece of property on the other side of the interstate that's associated with Veterans Park and BOI6. And again, that's a call for public hearing for June. Then you've got a budget amendment for renovations of the public safety building. This is adding $75,000 to the capital reserve fund that we have set up for improvements ultimately at the public safety building and improvements to the fire department quarters that are there. And we do this at the end of most of our fiscal years. Fortunately, in the last few years, we've been able to set aside money in capital reserve funds, and that's what this does. Then you have a budget amendment for improvements to Veterans Park, and this we had a special meeting last week that was associated with this. And what this budget amendment does is it sets up $90,000 in well, the new business is going to set up the capital project ordinance, but this budget amendment will transfer $90,000 from the fund balance to the capital project fund that you'll set up later in the meeting. And $85,000 of that is used to purchase the property next to the existing Veterans Park. It's Chuck Campbell's property. It's 2.74 acres. We've included that in the grant that we've applied for with the Parks and Rec Trust Fund. With the purchase of that property, because the property is valued at a higher amount than the purchase amount that we were able to work with the property owner, we will get credit for that for our match. In addition, we've been fortunate enough that Kiwanis has offered to provide money for a pavilion, which is part of the grant. Just so that people know what some of the grant portions are. There's a pavilion, a playground, the purchase of the property, stream bank restoration, and trail improvements that go along with this grant. And with the purchase of the property at a discounted rate, we get to count that towards the grant. And in addition to Kiwanis' contribution, we're able to make improvements at Veterans Park at a much discounted rate if we get the grant. I will point out, Casey, you'll correct me if I'm wrong, but we did, I think as I had mentioned, we were going to apply for a waiver that would say we would buy the land before we actually applied for the grant, but it wouldn't count, but we could still count it towards the grant. So we were granted that waiver. We've applied for the grant this year. I think it's true that if we weren't awarded the grant, we can apply for the grant again next year and still use that same waiver and count the credit for that piece of property. Regardless, I think it was the consensus that was a wise expenditure to expand Veterans Park and use that property, but we're hopeful that we can also apply that towards the grant. And this is the budget amendment so that we can start that process.
All right, do I hear a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Is there any item anyone wishes to take off to discuss further? Or is there any discussion at all? Not hearing any. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So passes unanimously. All right. We don't have any unfinished business, and we got the new business.
Yes, sir. And so I think I've probably gone over this in the budget amendment portion of the consent agenda, but your first item of new business sets up the capital project ordinance for Veterans Park improvements and a capital project fund. Basically, the reason we would do that is because we anticipate that expenditures would happen over the life of or over more than one fiscal year. So if you set up the capital project ordinance, then that money carries from year to year. We will start with $90,000. That's for the purchase of the land, plus it gives us a little bit of extra money for the appraisal and some things that we may need as we go forward. If we get the grant and as we make improvements, whether we get the grant or we make improvements on our own, we will then amend. We'll use budget amendments to amend the capital project ordinance over time and then draw that money back down that way. But this sets the ordinance up for the budget amendment that you approved earlier in the consent agenda.
Do I hear a motion to accept and approve this budget amendment?
So moved.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, pass unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Secondly, you've got a code amendment to allow bicycles to travel on sidewalks in town. As you may recall, a few months ago, we had a presentation about a bicycle plan, and we're trying to implement some of those suggestions. Some of those are more complicated or time-consuming or have some more logistics involved. But here's one that we think that will have an immediate impact on people, and what we like to do is adopt an amendment to allow bicycles to travel on sidewalks throughout town, except for sidewalks located in the central business zoning district. So it would, and I think if you were to talk to Lieutenant Austin or anybody else in town, I think they would probably note that people already ride their bikes on sidewalks. But currently we do not allow that, and this would accommodate that, except in the central business district, and be our first step towards making improvements that allow for that acknowledge a more bicycle-friendly approach to.
And when you're speaking of riding on sidewalks, you're with the bikes, you're referring to those areas for the most part outside of the business district.
Yes, only those areas outside of the business district.
Yeah, but I'm saying even now, so that we really don't have
Okay.
that many people riding bikes.
Right
in the central
downtown?
district, but
No,
we want to
because-
make sure that there is an ordinance against that.
Yes, and really, I think, yes, I think that's accurate. I think most people realize when they get downtown that it is complicated to maneuver around the people that are there. But there are areas further up Montreat Road and down 70 and other areas where it still does make sense to do that. But you're exactly right.
If you aware of any complaints, I know you're not supposed to ride on the sidewalks at the present, but we see a good bit of it. Have we received any complaints by any pedestrians that are bothered by it, or have been endangered by it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
But I mean, there will be.
No, Rob said he didn't see
Okay,
any either.
that's
Yeah.
good. Good. I'm
A
glad.
few years ago, we used to have some kids that would ride downtown, but they've kind of aged out.
Mhm.
We've not had anything in some time.
And I do think that there's still some, obviously there's some level of safety and sharing of the sidewalk too. But this does amend our code to allow it, instead of somebody being able to call and saying, "Hey, I saw a kid riding on the sidewalk. I know he's not allowed to." Now they'll be allowed to.
All right, do I hear a motion to accept this? Allowing bikes on the sidewalks outside of the business district. Ryan made the motion. Any discussion? No discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous also. All right, communications from staff.
I don't have anything to do.
All right. You got anything, Matt?
I do not, Mr. Mayor. I do have, I think we saw a slide earlier that had some upcoming meetings. And I would just ask Angela to read. If we could put that back up there, just as a reminder for you all and for the public. Or maybe not.
Oh, it's coming.
Yeah. I think that's even better. We'll just I'll remind you about the mushrooms. So I would remind you, do you have, next Monday, you've got a joint meeting with the planning board at 4 p.m. This is to discuss the complete streets model that DOT uses when designing highway improvements. And so I think we have that at 4 o'clock. That's a joint meeting, obviously, between you all and the planning board. May 17th, we have a budget workshop at 9 a.m. here at Town Hall. Thursday, May the 18th, the new police chief, Sean Freeman. And just for the public's information, he was the chief in Beach Mountain, and he'll be starting on Thursday, May the 18th, and we'll have a swearing in and a meet and greet at 9 a.m. If somebody wants to come by and see him, please feel free to. And then you've got your regular June meetings, your agenda, and your regular session. I just want to point out again to the board and to the public that our budget public hearing will be Monday, June the 19th at 6 p.m. and not June the 12th with our regular session. And that's all that I've got, Mr. Mayor.
I'd like to say something about this, what Dee Dee was speaking about the spraying inside the city limits. For years here, there was spraying, and then the board, and I don't know whether or not it was before I got on the board or whether the board actually passed or whether we just simply requested the town manager to go see Southern Railway, but they did cease that activity inside the city limits. So they were just primarily just mowing with those huge machines that they put on the side of the truck. Now, somewhere along the line, it looks like that the Southern Railway, either there was a change in personnel, there may have been a change in policy. I just want to think that it was just a change in personnel and it never did get, somebody retired, somebody went ahead and came in, and then they just said, well, we'll just spray the whole thing. I know that's my opinion, that and a lot of other people have spoken to me, that if we could try to get back to that and not spray inside the city limits.
Yeah, so we have some.
I don't.
Okay, we will work with Norfolk Southern.
If you could just look at that and bring it back to the board to see if the board wants to adopt that, or if they would just encourage you to do it, but I think that it would be something.
Well, we should reach out to Norfolk Southern too, because really it had to be worked out. But I'll check.
Oh, yeah, Norfolk Southern, that's what
was originally done. It may be something that was officially done. I'll check on that.
If you'll just check it out. Anybody else have anything they want to comment on?
I would say, wanted to offer a comment that the board had, it's been my pleasure to serve on the Land to Sky Regional Council Board, having been appointed a few years back by the board to do so, but I've been elected to be chair of the Land to Sky Regional Council Board, and so that's an honor I'm looking forward to participating in, and hopefully bear some fruit in some ways.
And before we go, I would like to say that we always like to have sharing around this town, and we encourage sharing, so please come up and share. Meeting adjourned.